Hi, everyone. Welcome to CTSJ's The Matrix, Conversations and Transformations. Glad to see you all here. So I wanted to welcome you. I'm Professor Malik Moazam Dolat. I am joined by Professor Caroline Heldman, chair of our department, and Professor Mary Christianakis. I want to tell you a little bit about the series before we get started, and I turn it over to Professor Heldman. The series focuses on pressing current events and seeks to connect our community with experts, scholars, artists, and the most effective activists. The series has been going all summer, and we're approaching the end of our summer season or summer series. Next Wednesday, Jasmine Joseph Chazan, a student from Harvard Medical School's immunology program, will join us to talk about public health approaches to the pandemic. That will close out the summer series, which was focused on the two major issues of the summer, the COVID pandemic in general and our responses to it, its broad effects, and police violence against Black people in the US. So starting August 27th, we'll be back on Thursdays at noon with a whole new slate. You can register for those events and access our YouTube channel where you can watch video of past events and the whole summer series. You could just go to oxy.edu/matrix. Right now, we're in a webinar format, which means that while we can't see you, you can submit questions at any time using the Q&A buttons at the bottom of the screen. You just click on it, put up a question, we'll be able to see it, and we'll definitely get to it. We would like to introduce our guest, and I'm going to turn it over to Professor Heldman to do that.
Thank you, Professor Malik. So we were scheduled to have two guests today. Greg Carr, who in shorthand is the founder of Voicemail, who's used his philanthropy to advance radical models of poverty alleviation and women's empowerment. But we are delighted that Larissa Sousa is with us today. Larissa is 9 hours ahead of us. She's in Mozambique. She is the Associate Director for Communications for the Gorongosa National Park in Mozambique. She started her professional journey 4 years ago as the Girls Education Program Manager, or what we call the Girls Clubs in the park. She joined the Gorongosa team in 2017 to help change the lives and model for girls and women in the buffer zone, as well as raise awareness about conservation issues in general. She was rapidly promoted when she came to the park. Just to give you a little bit of a sense of her background, Larissa did her primary school, 1st to 7th grade, in Chimoio, where she learned the National Mozambican curriculum. Then she did her high school in Chimera, but changed into the Cambridge curriculum, which then allowed her to do a bachelor's degree in international business administration in Finland. She received her master's degree in business administration following a bachelor's in business from Africa University in Zimbabwe. And prior to joining the park, Larissa worked as the person of contact for the Product Learning System program at Daimler-Benz. And she also worked at a school in Mozambique for the Halo Trust. So with no further ado, welcome, Larissa. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us halfway across the globe.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and to meet very interesting people like you yourselves, and to be in such interesting circles to learn and to share experiences. Thank you.
We really appreciate you taking the time out. And I thought we would start with a video that gives an overview of the park. Then I really want to delve into your background and what the model is for the park and how that involves girls and women's empowerment.
Yeah.
So we have a video coming.
Yes, it's coming right now. And let's see here. So here it goes.
Founded in 1960, Gorongosa quickly became a legendary safari destination. teeming with wildlife, it was known as the Serengeti of the South. But this was all lost in a generation of conflict. Today, thanks to years of work by a dedicated team, Gorongosa is one of Africa's most successful restoration projects. With over 100,000 large animals, the park is a celebrated ecotourism destination again. But Gorongosa today is a very different kind of national park. We are guided by the principle that nature conservation and community development must go together. This creates a virtuous cycle, a thriving ecosystem that delivers social, economic, cultural, and spiritual benefits to the people of Gorongosa. And in return, they become environmental stewards. The seeds of a more sustainable future are already being planted. Our coffee project on Mount Gorongosa gives farmers a better livelihood and restores a precious rainforest. Our honey project helps traditional beekeepers improve their honey and protect the pollinators we depend on. All this work is being done with an eye on the future, because diversification is one of the keys to resilience in the years to come. In March 2019, we were reminded just how challenging the future could be, and how interconnected we all are. After Cyclone Idai, the Gorongosa team delivered food to over 30,000 people. And the park absorbed floodwater equivalent to 800,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Cyclone Idai taught us the true value of intact wild places like Gorongosa. The park is part of a mosaic of protected areas that stretches from Mount Gorongosa to the Zambezi River Delta. Together, this vast wilderness of reserves, forests, and community conservancies can provide the ecosystem services that people will need to thrive and prosper in the future. But prosperity begins with peace. And Gorongosa is playing its part in this process too. In August 2019, the government of Mozambique and the Renamo party signed a peace agreement in the park. And we will help ex-combatants start new lives through our Peace Clubs program. In everything we do, we believe that women must have a bigger role in shaping the future of Gorongosa. We trained the first women rangers in Gorongosa's history. We employ a new generation of Mozambican women scientists. And our Girls Clubs program aims to keep girls in school, giving them their basic human right to an education and a chance to follow their dreams. Thank you to the government of Mozambique, to our partners, and to the people of Gorongosa for your enduring support.
Larissa, let's start with a claim that was made, or the theme, I would say, of this film, that Gorongosa is a very different type of park, right? One that focuses on both nature conservation and community development. Can you tell us about that model and the history of how everything got started in the park?
I think when people hear different, most of the times people think it's in a negative way, but we try to put it in a very positive way, in the sense that we focus both on protecting the biodiversity, so the flora and fauna, as well as the people. The park has its boundaries, but right after that, there is an area that we call the buffer zone. And that's where people live. And there is some restrictions there. And especially in the Gorongosa area, it's been one of the areas that have been neglected, and it's been through political instability. And so these are very, very poor people, and they don't have basics catered for. And so in general, the history of Mozambique is that we went through a colonial war, and before 1975, which was when Mozambique got independent from Portugal, the park was already declared as an official park in 1960. However, the Mozambican people were still somehow under a lot of stress, and so the locals did not have any kind of ownership of the park, or basically anything. And so when we got independent, 2 years after, there was a civil war. So after that, there was 16 years of civil war. So only in about 1992, that's when there was a peace accord signed. But there was a lot of destruction in these 16 years. The park went from 100 to 0. Almost all the large animals disappeared. They were killed both for people to eat, as well as to take the animals' treasure. So the elephants, the rhinos, all of these basically disappeared by the time where the peace accord was signed. And so between 1992 and 2003, 2004, that area was somehow neglected, because Gorongosa is where the base of the main opposition party, which is Renamo, is located. So not much was put in terms of development, in terms of focusing on catering for basic needs for that population. And so in 2004, that's when Mr. Greg Carr was invited by our previous president, Joaquim Chissano, to come and help restore Gorongosa National Park. And Mr. Greg Carr has a huge background in human rights, so he couldn't not do that part as well in Gorongosa, together with conservation efforts. And I know that he was also very much focused on what Nelson Mandela had said, that if you want conservation to thrive, you need to have the people around it involved. And so I think that was one of the main things that helped us become this somehow different park from the normal parks in Africa. And since then, we've been very lucky that we were able to do a lot in terms of restoration of the park. We now have about 100,000 large animals. The population, of course, is as well growing, and we, under the human development, are working together with the government of Mozambique to ensure that these people as well have basic conditions catered for, so health, education, and other livelihoods, to ensure that they also develop, and that they now start taking ownership of the park, which is theirs actually, and that they go into the park and visit the animals. A lot of these peoples just have heard of an elephant, or heard stories that lions have been around their communities, but they have never actually seen a lion for the pleasure. So we take these people to go into the park and do a safari, so that they understand that this is it's a paradise. It's where people wish to come and visit from so far away, and it's something that is just on their back door, and they don't have the same opportunity. So now we are providing that to them and ensuring that they realize why it's so important to conserve Gorongosa, and explain to them how they can benefit from it if they conserve and if they protect the biodiversity of this place, so that they can realize, because most of these people have had little or even zero education whatsoever. So it's really hard to make people understand if they don't see something practical out of it. So, and it takes generations for people to change. So that's what we focusing on, education, and ensuring that boys and girls have the same opportunities, have the same tools in life, so that they are able to then take over, because we are not there forever, and this is supposed to be something sustainable, that the community someday takes over, and they are taking ownership and are the leaders of these initiatives, and the people in the front line. So I think in a nutshell, that's what we do, and somehow are different, but wish that all the parks are also able to address things in the sense of also making sure that the people who live around the park are the stewardess. They are the ones who are ensuring that there is sustainability, that there is an engine of development, and it has to start from the people.
That's amazing, Larissa. Do you think you can tell us a little bit more about the education for the children, what that entails, what that might look like, what are the challenges, and maybe that in relation to the park?
So we have different education programs that are extracurricular activities. So we are actually helping what's already there in terms of the normal national curriculum for education in Mozambique. So we have normally as the first criteria that the kids have to be registered and are actively going to school in the normal Mozambican school. And then they can then participate in one of these projects. So one of the big projects that it's also mine from the heart, which is the girls' clubs. We have as the main objective to keep girls in school and away from early marriages. This is because these are very rural areas, and early marriages is something that is very common due to tradition and cultural barriers. And so normally the girls' education is not as valued as the boys' education. So we are focusing on girls, ensuring that they are not getting married and staying in school. And this normally is if a girl goes to school, the normal school in the morning, she goes to the club in the afternoon. and she goes there, she meets a promoter, which is the facilitator of the sessions, who are normally young people from the communities as well, that they speak both local language as well as Portuguese, which is our official language here in Mozambique. And they are there to help basically these girls who are vulnerable, who are chosen by the community as being the ones that are in most need of help. And they ensure that they help them with homework. They discuss about different topics. They talk about conservation, sexual reproductive health. They also do a bit of literacy, numeracy. So they have a weekly schedule. So they meet every day, after or before school, as I explained. And so together they have this somehow safe circle that the girls can help each other, can discuss, can somehow create a sisterhood that ensures that they keep in school as well as out of marriages, because then they have this place where they can talk about things, where they feel safe, and if something is happening at home, then they're able to come to the club and somehow have these issues discussed and helped as well. And also under the clubs, we have what we call godmothers. So each girl has a godmother, which is an older woman who's from the same community, who's somehow influential, and she's a volunteer. So these are women who have been through things like early marriages, early pregnancies, and they don't want to see the same pattern happen to these girls who are from the community. So these are women who really have the experience and don't want it to pass on, and they value education. So the godmothers are also there to ensure that the girls are healthy, that they're going to school every day, that she has somebody, a second mom. And these godmothers, we train them. We ensure that they have different livelihood activities, that they have some kind of extra income, just things that we can somehow empower them as well as women from the community.
And Larissa, along those lines, what other programs are in the park or efforts are being made to elevate girls and women's education, their leadership, professional development? I know this is a core part of the park, one thing that makes it pretty unique.
Yeah. Well, we have a whole department which is called human development. And under the human development, we have education, as I explained, and we have the girls' clubs as one of the main education programs. And then we have youth clubs, which is focused on youth, also under education. And then we have eco clubs, which are specific clubs that focus on conservation. So the kids do many activities, but focused on education. And these are mixed clubs, which are also focused on education. And the kids also learn a bit of literacy, numeracy, but everything which is focused on conservation. And this year, actually, we're very excited because we just started what we call the teachers clubs, which then we will be able to train, give different tools to the teachers, which then they will work with all of the kids in the schools. So I think that is something that is summarizing somehow all of our education projects. And I think it will be very good in the sense that we will be able to also work a lot more with the formal education. So we're very excited about that. And then we have under the health, which is the second big sector under the human development. We have basic nutrition, that we ensure that the women in the community learn about malnutrition, what they should feed their kids so that the kids are well and healthy. And we select a group of women, which are the contact women in the community, and we call them model moms. We teach them how to make healthy porridges with peanut butter, for example, with moringa leaves, with just nutritious meals for the kids, using their local resources, because normally they have sweet potato, for example, that most of the times they don't know how nutritious it is, so they don't eat it. So it's using what they have in their own community to ensure that they have healthy meals, and that their kids grow healthy to be able to continue school. And these women are trained by our health sector, and then they have to then replicate what they have learned from us in their community, so that we have everyone in the community duplicating or replicating these initiatives in terms of nutrition. And then we have the TBAs, which we call them matronas, and these are the older ladies who know about giving birth, know about everything about natal care. And these women are now ensuring that there is more institutionalized births. So they help take care of the pregnant women in the communities, but they have to ensure that these women go into the hospital to get all the consultations, as well as giving birth in the hospital, due to the many reasons why we shouldn't give birth at home. And then we also have women who we work with directly to ensure that they are doing preventive care in the community. So we have malaria, for example. So they go into the community and give lectures about how they can prevent malaria, for example. They also distribute mosquito nets. They talk to people about tuberculosis, for example. So just these diseases and diarrhea, for example, just common diseases that we have here. And they talk to the community, they discuss about these things, just to have preventive care, because most of these communities don't have a nearby clinic, for example. So if they would have to go to a clinic, it would be sometimes 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers. So these people, who we call APEs, they are polyvalent, so community health workers. And they stay in the community, and they are able to do most of the preventive work, and some curative, such as very basic malaria testing and diarrhea curing, and just for the community to be able to have someone close and that they can rely on in terms of health. So in terms of health, these are the three main projects that we are working on at the moment. And we have, as well, under the health sector, we have mobile clinics where once a week, our team, together with nurses from the main health centers in the big villages, go into these different communities and give a proper care and curative care to the people from these communities. So it's in terms of working with women, we try to cover all sectors, and through these different projects we give them training. Some of them, most of them are volunteers, but we give them a food basket, for example, and we give them training on different livelihood activities to ensure that they are empowered in that sense.
Larissa, sometimes in these kinds of circumstances, the people are both grateful for all of the resources, but also resistant because there is a loss, a cultural loss, when this kind of education moves in. Are there methods to preserve the local culture so that it doesn't seem sort of Western imperial, or that there's, yeah.
I think it's a matter of first understanding what the culture is, and as well as being able to somehow integrate on the westernized things, and also respecting what is their culture. I think one of the big things that was that people were resisting to was institutionalized birth. So people going to give birth in the hospital because most of the caretakers were male. So the husbands didn't want to send their wives to go into the hospital give birth because the health caretakers were male. And so I think with time there are more nurses and doctors who are female and are able to work in communities or in rural areas, because in Mozambique normally the female even teachers or nurses, they don't like to go and work in communities like these because they don't have electricity, for example. They don't have running water, so it can be dangerous for women. So there's many reasons why women don't go and work in these areas. So the men are the ones who are there. And so in the beginning, it was somehow difficult to convince the husbands that he's a nurse, he's a doctor, and it's his job. So we shouldn't be afraid, but somehow also respecting the fact that it's culturally not accepted. And so we're very happy that now there's more women coming into communities like these and working. And so making things easier and people also to adapt gradually, because we can't expect it to be something like in a shock that everyone is just going to say, okay, it's fine, and they're going to be going to hospital. So I think in that sense, it's about taking time to adapt to these things, understanding, and having women who are brave enough to be the examples to say that, hey, it's normal. So I think when we have examples of people who have done it, or when we have tangible things, it's easier to then convince the people to use or to be able to then somehow get westernized.
Great, thank you.
So Larissa, you are one of these brave women that you just talked about. You are one of these.
Yes.
So tell us more about your life path and journey and how you got here.
I think when I was smaller, for as long as I can remember, I think I first wanted to be a doctor, but then I realized that doctors have to deal with blood. So I was like, a no. And then I think I wanted to be an accountant. And then it's too many numbers. And then I wanted to do something with tourism. So before I went to do my bachelor's degree, I did a lot of focus studies on tourism, on hospitality. But then I decided that business in general would benefit me more, and I would still be able to do tourism. So that's when I went to Finland and I did my bachelor's degree. When I finished my study, I decided to come back home. I thought I would be more of a contribution here. And so I came back home and started working at the Halo Trust. And then just started progressing, and I then moved on to working as in a school as an assistant administrator, and that's when I think I got the wake-up call on education, and it just went on for me. And I was actually finishing my master's degree when I met Greg, and I was doing my thesis about the timber sustainability of the timber industry, and I wanted to know how the park was somehow ensuring that there was no logging in the park. And that's when I got talking to Mr. Greg, and yeah, he invited me to come and start the girls clubs, and I was like, I am coming there. I was very, very happy and honored to be invited. And I think I felt that I was being blessed a lot. I had the opportunity to have the best education. And as a woman from Mozambique, I know that, and that's not as easy. And so I decided that I was going to do everything that I could to ensure that all girls have at least the same tools, maybe not the same opportunities, because I think everyone has its unique path. So as long as they're able to be given the same opportunities to study, I think that was one of the biggest passions that I have at the moment.
So following up on that with some of the other women who are in charge in the park, right? You are a leader. There are other women who are leaders in the park in some occupations that were traditionally closed to them. And I know that the park has, so what you've described is this, let me take a step back and say that oftentimes when we want to alleviate something as challenging as, say, poverty, right, or rural poverty in Mozambique, a program would come in and it would address economic development, or it will address health or education. You're addressing all of this with a long-term commitment, right? I know the planning, you're looking out now, I think you have a 100-year plan, and then you have decades of planning. You're also training talented local people are going all around the world to get advanced degrees in order to make this sustainable in the long term. And I guess my question is, if you could speak more about, how all of these pieces fit together, and how the leadership team is really elevating this in terms of local ownership and running the park for many, many decades to come.
I think it's we are getting there. As I said, it's hard for women to work in such rural areas, and I'm very proud of myself and all the women who are working in the park, because it's not easy, and especially when you have a family and you still have other things going on, and yeah, but we as the park have a plan of having 50% of employees being women, and we are getting there. We're about 30% at the moment, and almost 98% of the employees are Mozambicans. So we're also very proud of that. And it's very nice that we are also putting a lot of effort in empowering the staff. And there is people studying abroad, people studying even also here in Mozambique. And I think I would say that we have people like Dominique Gonçalves, who is the elephant ecologist. Oh, by the way, today is Elephant International Day, so happy Elephant Day. And then we have women such as Elisa, who's leading the Human Development Department. We have a lot more women working on the science department, which is very exciting because Mozambique has a very little percentage of women scientists. So we're very happy to contribute very positively to that. We also have one very impressive conservation department where we have one of the first female rangers in the whole of Mozambique, which are thriving very well. And then we have also strong presence of women in the operations department, which is somehow considered very male oriented. And then we have the bigger portion of women on the sustainable development and human development department. And I think it's very interesting how we then become these role models to other women. And since we're encouraging and we want to have more women working in the park, we are constantly working on training and empowering the existing women in the park. And I think this is very important because we are the ones who make the most change. What I mean by that is that as a woman, as a mother, we are the ones who are the most caretakers of our kids. So the generation that is coming next is very much influenced by the mothers. And so I think it's very important for us to be the example and to ensure that the next generation is what we wish for.
That's really interesting. Can you talk a little bit more about some of the tensions that the mothers face with working, and maybe tell us a little bit about what maybe a more traditional gender roles are, and what their struggles are, what they're overcoming, and sort of, you know, what this accomplishment means in the community for women?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there are different roles, because in the community we have normally the father being the head of the family, and he's normally the sole decision maker. But now we somehow seeing a change with the women in the community becoming a bit more empowered, somehow getting basics of literacy. They now have some kind of a voice. So they are able to be part of a conversation, be active on a conversation. Maybe she doesn't make the decision yet, but there is openness to discuss things with the women. So I think that's a big plus in terms of empowering these women in the community. And I think one of the big examples of struggle, at least from what we discussed as women in the park, is women rangers, because there is such a big disparity in terms of numbers between males and females. So it's really hard or complicated for these women, if they have husbands or if they have kids, that they now go and work as a ranger. They normally have 21 days of work and then 7 days of rest or days off. So you can imagine if you have a husband and a child at home, and you have these kinds of periods of work. So it's challenging in that sense. But I think with this openness, we have husbands who are accepting these conditions, and they are also cheering and happy that they wives are on a career path, that they getting training, and that they actually get a salary that contributes to the household. So I think it's times of change, and it takes patience, and it takes understanding, and it's very nice that there is this openness to change, but society in general still says that the man is the one who can actually go out and work. The woman has to, if she works, she then needs to be the one that stays at home and takes care of the kids. So now with these shifts, there was always conflict in the family, within the relationship, but it's things that we are somehow going through, and it's a matter of understanding and a matter of having a supportive family beside you to be able to do these things and to be this role model that women in the park are.
Larissa, we are now going to ask for questions from the audience. So if anyone has questions they would like to pose, please put them in the Q&A right now. We could talk for hours and hours about the work in the park, your work with child soldiers, your work with peace, how this can be a model that's taken to other parts of the world. Importance of being physically located around a park. There's so many things, but I definitely want to make sure to ask you about Girls Run the World coffee. I was going to run to the kitchen and grab my bag because I get my monthly delivery. Tell us about this model of economic development, and also can you confirm or deny that you're trying to get Beyonce to sue you so that you can get the free publicity?
No. No, we want to get Beyonce on our side. We want her to come and visit Gorongosa and sing with us because we do run the world.
And sorry, I'm cutting you short. I just wanted to make sure you talked about what that model looks like. I know the pandemic is, you know, there was a launch party that was going to happen in LA, I think the day that everything sort of closed down, and we should give that context. But anyone who's watching or wants to share this coffee with friends and family, where does that money go? What does that model look like?
So the coffee project was a very, very good idea to actually do reforestation up in Mount Gorongosa, as well as then do coffee for people to drink at the end of the day. But the idea of the coffee project is that we get profit out of it, and all of these profits from the coffee project go to three main things. First one is the girls around the world, so everything that has to do with education, and specifically girls clubs. And then we have a second one that goes into protecting and doing research for elephants. And the third one is to do reforestation. So we in the park basically live off donations. So we have different donors that work with us on the different projects that we have. However, we do not have the 30-year funding from these donors. So we don't know when these donors will go away. So we need to make sure that there is some kind of sustainability, that one day, if we don't have donors, we can still continue with our projects. So the coffee project is there to ensure that if there's no donors, we still have money to ensure that these activities and projects go on. And we also have honey at the moment, which is also under the Gorongosa Trust, that all the profits go into these three main projects under the park. So if you are a coffee drinker, please do go to our website where you can order. We are now shipping worldwide, and we're very excited. In March, we were supposed to do the launch party, as Caroline said, in LA. That unfortunately didn't happen as we hoped, but we are already selling the coffee. It's really good. And I'm not saying that because I work in Gorongosa.
Yes.
And yeah, that's how you can help us continue doing what we're doing and ensuring that girls go to school, elephants are there, as well as the forests.
Well, we will definitely feature that on our website. Are there other ways that people can get involved to support the park and your amazing efforts, Larissa?
Sure. We, at the moment, as everywhere else, we are helping the communities in terms of giving them and teaching them how to make masks. We are providing them with a hygiene material for hand washing. We are also giving training and a bit of awareness raising in terms of COVID in general for the communities around the park. And so you can go on our website, gorongosa.com, and you can see a place where you can donate directly for the COVID efforts. But at the same time, we have scholarships that we provide for girls to continue with education for both secondary and higher education. And also on our website, we have under community education, you can look and you can donate money for girls and boys to continue with their education. And also we have some videos and movies that are really nice and interesting that will convince you to come visit us in Gorongosa. We will be very happy to have you guys over.
Well, Larissa, as you know, I'm very bummed because I was supposed to be in the month working with you,
Yeah.
developing girls and women's leadership curriculum, but we can, right, lots can be done from afar. And I should say, Greg Carr's ears are probably burning. He didn't not join us because, you know, he's too busy or something. He had a hard drive crash this morning on his computer, so he wasn't able to join us. He also sent me a message saying, well, it's better, you know, men speak a lot, so it's better actually. Larissa does all the talking because she is an amazing and incredible representative of all of the brave work that you're doing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Been fantastic. Thank you, Larissa.
It's been very nice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So what we'll do, I think this would work, is we will have this video up so you can share it, those of you who are here, at oxy.edu/matrix. But in addition, I think what we'll do is maybe we can figure out how to put some of the links that you mentioned for supporting the COVID relief, for supporting the coffee, together with this video on oxy.edu/matrix. And we'll share some of that with the participants, the audience.
Wait until we can travel again so we can come visit the park and visit you.
Oh, yes, please. Yes, please. Let's hope that we don't finish this year without having the borders opened again.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Larissa. And thanks everyone for being here and participating. If you have any questions, just send an email to CTSJ Events or one of us. If you're a student, you can find us pretty easily. If you have questions for Larissa or something like that, you know, we can see if we can facilitate that as well.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Good luck with everything.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.